Okay, we are recording with zero announcement. All right, welcome y'all to the AMA. This is something we'll be doing when we don't have an explicit update to be done, which we had a whole bunch of them for a while, and I'm sure we'll have a whole bunch of them upcoming. But there were lots of questions in the community, and that kind of naturally weaved into this opportunity to do these AMAs when we didn't have anything for a typical live stream, Tuesday morning live stream. So welcome. Brandon and I are both available for these, and happy to answer anything, and may say I don't know a lot. So what would you guys like to chat about?
Not elliptical curves, that's for sure.
See, Vlad and Crypto Webbit joining us. Welcome. Floor's open. Nobody has any burning questions?
Well, we're waiting for the white paper.
Yep. It continues to.
That was my question. You got any spoilers for us? Any sneak peek previews for the white paper?
I think Dan does a good job providing spoilers on Telegram, so I don't know that I have anything that's not already out there. No, just how to relate to the new ideas is, we're our job is to keep up as much as you guys are trying to keep up with what's going on, communicated on Telegram. It's going to be an interestingly different model than Eden, aiming at some of the same ends, but it'll be interestingly different, and it's still moving so rapidly that I don't think I've got anything newer than what's been going on in Telegram.
Yeah, I can add to that. The white paper right now is in a Google Doc, and it's very well written and put together, but it is still a work in progress. We're getting a lot of feedback. Dan's getting a lot of feedback from everyone on our team, and select other people from the community right now. So yeah, I hope that it will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But I think Dan has kind of hinted at that timeline for its release as well. I'll tell you guys, though, the more I read it, the more I dig into it, the more excited I get. I think that this new model does a really good job in a very interesting way of stoking, of creating, of fomenting like real sticky community, and rewarding merit, and in adequately defining and scoping governance, and balancing a lot of the just the various aspects of various things that need to be balanced. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it really does sound like we're trying to be cryptic, but we're not. It's just still taking shape.
Yeah, anyone I think like the EOS community is used to and appreciates iteration. So not a question, but my comment for your team and for Dan is to just do it right. Take your time, as much time as you need to get the paper written well. We don't need to see every step of how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that perspective. I think this really is. Well, if you love sausage, then this is sausage being made, because I think the product is going to be awesome, and it's changed. Honestly, it's changed so much that I think if we were talking about every step of the process, we would have to spend a ton of time dispelling just old ideas. Like I can't tell you how hard it is from the first version of what we were calling Eden V2 to where we are now. Just retiring old thoughts in big old air quotes, right? Like 2-3 week old thoughts, realizing, oh, are we not doing that thing anymore? It's actually hard to keep up with. It's quite hard to keep up with mentally.
Yeah, it's almost our pursuit of transparency, which hasn't exposed this to everyone yet, because we know that it would probably cause more confusion than not. So yeah, but I think we're going to continue to operate in a very transparent form. We just want to make sure that we've adequately organized all the thoughts. I do think that we're going to, as we move forward in this project, prioritize a little more highly, things like polish, things like making sure everything is implemented in a more measured way. As I think we're going to see, my hope is that we will see quite the influx of new people into the EOS community because of this model, right? Of this product. So,
and I guess I'm always assuming people are reading Telegram, but I suppose for the sake of those of you who may not be reading Telegram regularly, a lot of it may sound like lots and lots and lots is changing, and fundamental things. We are making improvements. We are iterating in substantive ways, but the goal remains organize people's effort, right? Assemble organization of people, self-assembly of people into organization, coordinated communities to get stuff done, right? That remains the goal. And a lot of it will look and feel the same. It is just the manifestation and the incentives and the relationships. So for whatever it's worth to say that part of it, like it is still the same goal. We just think we have made a pivot that's really valuable. And I think Dan's really spent some inspired time putting together aspects of this in a way that I think you guys will all really dig.
I remember a couple days ago, Dan tweeted, this was on January 1st. He made a major breakthrough in the design in the past 2 days that requires some updates to the paper before release. How was that for you guys? Not like, obviously not specifically about the change, but was it a major? What did it kind of shock you? Like, what was your reaction to that?
If I'm remembering what that was at that time period, I'm pretty sure Dan's always, Eden, right from the beginning, was incorporating principles that involve nature, right? Biomimicry and Dunbar's number and Pareto principle, and these trying to incorporate what's the nature of human beings trying to coordinate, human beings communicating. He's always trying to properly characterize problems with current systems and then incorporate the concepts and solutions that would make something work. And I think that pursuit obviously continues, but I think there's kind of this new element of richness and perhaps even elegance to what he's working on now, where we're really trying to incorporate this, what we've been throwing around the term fractal democracy, right? That's the term that's been used a lot. Well, what makes it fractal? When we say fractal democracy, like, what does that mean? And how can we, what is fractals are natural in nature, right? The golden ratio and that whole thing. I think we're starting to see opportunities to incorporate even more of those naturally occurring phenomenon into how we get this done. And I think it's just adding this richness and elegance that is a level up. I think that's what was happening around that time you're referring to.
Yeah, I remember he called me all excited with one of the things that he considered a breakthrough. But honestly, at this point, it feels kind of underwhelming, because there are so many breakthroughs, I feel like, happening all along the way that are huge, that it's just another one that's bringing more of a rounded out feeling to what's coming together in the white paper. So yeah, it's
white paper sort of encapsulate everything that you're sort of talking about now, or they're going to have sort of more iterations coming up. It seems to be like forever, ever more and more sort of new ideas, and I'm just wondering, because obviously that will hold you back if you keep changing the goalposts.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen thus far with Eden on EOS, it's been highly experimental. There was this whole slew of things to learn, and we couldn't predict what they would be. And then whenever we started running the experiments, with all of you together, with the community, I don't know, we learned so much that it does feel like it's coming together in a more solid way than ever before, in a way that we'll be able to project, I guess, farther into the future, a more well-defined roadmap with fewer pivots, fewer diversions along the way. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop iterating. I think iteration is key where we're going. If there's something to learn, and if there's a change that's worth making, we don't want to fall into the trap, though, of being comfortable with where we're at, right? Ultimately, and I think, Mike, you put it this way during our last update, we don't want to stop with anything short of delivering on, in any way that we can. And there are a lot of people doing this. It's not unique to us, but to delivering on this vision of life, liberty, property, and justice, of giving people the tools to organize sovereignly, and to be rewarded through that community organization in ways that have never been possible before. So, I think what I'm saying is it has been highly iterative, full of lots of pivots. I think that the frequency of that into the future will decrease over time, but we don't want to stop learning from our experiences and adjusting as necessary.
Yep, I get that. I understand that. Do you see this going forward as, I think one of the visions was to offer governance as a service for other chains? Is something that we sort of thinking about as an overall sort of goal?
Yeah.
Go for it, Brent. I'm curious.
Okay. No, I think governance as a service is certainly what we're pursuing. Now, how and when it impacts other chains, I think, is yet to be seen. More than anything, I think that, and I think I said this last time, but one of the challenges that we faced with Eden on EOS was that we were bringing together a community of people in order to test a novel governance process. And that's powerful. And I think we have been very successful in doing so in the Eden on EOS community. But in the real world, groups don't form around governance. Communities don't find a governance process and then come together around that, and they're strengthened through their governance. Communities form because they have a common goal and a common culture, a common economy, if you will. And it's because of the community. It's because of that common economy. It's because of that cohesive culture and the coming together of people that governance is a necessity. Problem is, right, is the governance that's implemented, it all too often devolves into something that ends up inhibiting the community, inhibiting the economy of the community and that cohesiveness and even the culture of the community. Is governance going to be a stumbling block, or is it going to be something that is a launch pad, like a rocket launch pad for the community? Is it going to be something that empowers and pours gasoline on, in a good way, right, the community, strengthens the community? And so what we really want to do is not just provide governance as a service, but provide let's wait until we see the white paper and we hear Dan on this. This is just my perspective on it all. Okay, as one member of this robust fractal, right, that we have here, but it's to build and release powerful communities as a service. Empowered by a means of coming to consensus, of rewarding one another via subjective, merit in a fair way, all underpinned by this powerful form of true democracy, of fractal governance, this model that we've all been practicing together. So yeah, tweaking that goal a little bit, not necessarily governance as a service, but community as a service empowered by that governance.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing and powerful. I'm guessing this is going to take quite a bit of time for the communities to evolve and go in different directions. And I guess it's be like a bit of a trial, I guess, at first. And that could take, I don't know, months, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, we'll continue to try to, release in an iterative way. It's going to take some time, sure. Mike, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I think when in the early days of Eden V2, Brandon and I probably could have given a easier estimate on, when can we start seeing this roll out. Enough's changed, and the fundamental structure and approach has changed enough that I don't know that I feel I could give that estimate very well right now. So we're waiting for that to stabilize a little bit. We'll start to put a roadmap together and give an estimate there. But I think this will take a little. It'll take a little longer to release than Eden did, I'd imagine. And then, I think it could. We want to create it in a way that people can kick off communities. So when we say as a service, available to a given community committed to something. I mean, think about the whole DAO world on Ethereum. If you guys are familiar with Olympus DAO, Brandon has brought that to our attention, and we've talked quite a bit about that internally. Olympus DAO is just a phenomenon on Ethereum, and people are copy pasting it for their own communities and purposes. And I think we're creating an engine that will have kind of a similar power, in that this is going to be fundamental ideas, massively empowering for communities, that will lead to people wanting their own community to run this way. And then I think, Mel, you'd asked about other chains, right? Service to other chains, I think, is part of your original question. I think this will be a model. It could very well be, as Dan has referred many times in the last year and a half, we've talked about the killer app on EOS. Maybe this is the killer app on EOS. Maybe this is an idea that propagates to other chains because it's that good of an idea. Who knows in the crypto world? Anything can happen. But I think these these ideas will be so well ironed out by the time we're done iterating this that I think they'll propagate on their own.
Do you think we need to protect ourselves with this? Obviously, with an IP or something, I don't suppose we can, but I just wondering, you were saying about copy pasting it into, say, ETH, for instance. Would be a shame that we go through this pain and then it gets sort of taken over by another chain and then we sort of get left behind. Any views on that?
Yeah, a couple of philosophical things. If you haven't read the someone on this call know, James, I think you'll know it. There's a book called something like Against Intellectual Property or something like that. We're not looking to protect this. These are ideas we want the world to have. This is fulfilling on some of the promises of blockchain and some of the promises of life, liberty, and property and justice for all. This is the mission. So copy and pasting, A, is going to happen regardless, and B, is only a good sign. If these ideas mimetically propagate the way, that kind of way, that's all the better. The other thing to say, I think, quite relevantly, is copy pasting happens within the same code base because it's copy paste. We're not seeing Olympus DAO rewritten as an EOS.IO contract. We're seeing Olympus DAO copy and pasted as an Ethereum contract and some name changes. So I both think there's not a big fear of it propagating, and if this propagates, that's only better for people. So it's something we're going to originate and have a first mover advantage, but I don't think we're worried about like protecting anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring value back into EOS, and that's something that was going to be very valuable. Sorry, whoever was going to talk.
Oh, I was just saying, I would echo that. We're more concerned with releasing these ideas into the world than anything else. The fact that we are focused on EOS, these are going to be built in EOS land, EOS smart contracts. It wouldn't be as easy, like Mike, to Mike's point, to copy and paste into Ethereum land. So I think that we'll have quite some time to reap the benefits, as a larger community of this structure. Heck, I don't know if what we're building is even possible on Ethereum, to be quite honest. I think you need the power of EOS and Mandel chains, right, to be able to deliver on what we're working on building.
That's actually a good point. I mean, you consider like the number of transactions we do in an Eden election. Can you imagine the cost of doing that on Ethereum and how slow it would go? Right? It just basically can't be done.
Yeah, or just building smart contracts on those chains with this sort of complexity. Yeah, well, it'll be a while. I do want to reiterate too. Our focus is EOS right now, and what we're building, whenever we're talking about almost like communities as a service, giving people the power to launch their own communities, we're focused on giving people the power to launch their own communities on EOS, and bringing, the allure of coming of joining one of our communities isn't, hey, I need to know how to use EOS to be able to join this community. We want to abstract all of that away. So when you hear about this amazing thing happening in DeFi and DGov, right, that happens to be on the EOS chain, that there are no barriers to entry for people. It's like interacting with or almost like interacting with a Web 2 app, except for you're getting all the benefits of Web 3 plus here. I don't know, maybe we're in Web 4 or 5 by this point, Mike. But and that's why I think I agree with Dan. He's hinted, could this be the killer app for EOS? If we can bring a whole new generation of people into EOS, let me put it this way, into just blockchain in general, people who've never been into blockchain, if we can bring them in and let them use this, I think I think that it will be very good for EOS, very good for the larger community.
Well, and as this community knows very well, people are relating to every project through some kind of lens. Ethereum is the DeFi chain right now, right? And if you're playing on Ethereum, well, you use MetaMask, and you understand that it costs $50 to do anything minimum. Like you just know these things. You just learn the details of that chain. And why would we use EOS when we could just call it the zombie chain, right? Like there's all these filters. Cardano is, the best awesome hyped chain. If you go through, every chain kind of has its hype reputation. Solana's been, hugely talked about in the last few months. We have the most performant proven chain out there as far as I can tell. And people in this community know that. People outside this community are looking through their lens of what they think EOS is, with all kinds of FUD mixed in. So I think it can't be understated that if we build a reason to come to EOS, everybody who comes to EOS, who already had to learn MetaMask and $50 transactions, like whatever, like they're used to learning esoteric stuff. If all they have to learn is this is the Anchor wallet, here's how it works. You have this account instead of, just a public key address. If they just learn a couple details about EOS, and we're going to hide as many of those implementation details as possible, they come for this app, and then they realize, wow, I'm not paying fees all the time. I'm paying cents or fractions of cents to get anything done, and I can do a bunch of stuff. It's going to become obvious that we have the best chain out there. People are going to, it's going to be so in people's face how well things work on EOS that propagating to other chains is not going to be the obvious next step. I think that's why when we say killer app for EOS, not only is this a good app and a valuable app and a productive app and all those things that will bring people, which is just those are sufficient, but it's the kind of app that's so valuable that people are just going to come here and play here because this is where this app is, right? Who's gonna spend the time to rewrite it for some other chain? It's already here, and EOS already makes it easy to use. I think it's just going to be a slam dunk when all that comes together.
It's been recorded, isn't it?
What'd you say?
This is being recorded, yeah?
Yeah.
That's slam dunk. I want that recorded. It's great.
It's hard to not picture it that way, even after years of FUD and whatnot. Like we needed an app to draw people, but once they come, why would they leave? Like we're really we really have the opportunity to blow their minds.
Is that in combined with the rebranding?
Rebranding is not our territory really. So I can't really speak a ton. You're talking about rebranding of the EOS.io chain?
Yeah.
The protocol? I can't say a ton. I just don't know much about the branding of the protocol and the EOS chain.
Okay.
If your question is, are they going to coincide? I don't think that's like the intention. These are just things happening at a similar time.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I'm just looking at my screen again. I've been pacing and talking. Look at all these people. Jose, ¿cómo estás, Jose? Bienvenido. Giuseppe. Oz, Veronica, Dario. Oh, wow. We've added quite a bit of people. Cool. Welcome, everybody. All right. Well, then, with all these new people, now we get to re-ask the question. Any questions? Open floor. We started with a cozy fireside chat, but we've got quite a few people. You guys must have questions. Preguntas de Sudamérica? Chuck,
No, nada.
welcome.
Muy bien. Gracias.
Bueno. All right, everybody's quiet today.
Yeah, let's warm it up a little bit. Lenny here. Checking the new pipe paper coming out and similar and so. From beginning, of course, most, and I think most still do, see that as the, so to say, the continuation of a current Eden and the format. But I've also seen voices discussing that now that could be running in parallel and similarly. How do you guys see it from Clarion team? Do you see it as a kind of a further development, a morphing of a current Eden membership, so to say, or as an alternative, or what is the foundation you think Dan has in mind and yourselves technically?
I don't think, I think Dan's mind is completely absorbed on the white paper and what comes next. We originally saw it as an evolution of Eden, right? Eden was V1, let's make V2. I think it'll be something that runs in parallel. It's different enough in numerous ways that we're going to want to write the code from scratch anyway. Our intention is not to, that sounds funny to say, but our intention is not to disrupt Eden, Eden as it is. We obviously will disrupt inside of this commitment to innovate and fulfill on the mission. But I think this will be a completely distinct thing offered in parallel. And I think my guess, this is completely my guess, I think we'll make a migration path. And so people who are part of Eden who want to not play the Eden game anymore and want to play the new game, we'll just create a migration path so that it's minimally disruptive but gives people the option to switch over. There's kind of like two scenarios, right? Let's look at two ends of the spectrum. One is everybody looks at the white paper. I know what this sounds like, but just bear with me. Two ends of the spectrum. Everybody looks at the white paper and goes, no, that's crazy. We don't want to do that. Then Eden continues to operate the way it's operating. Or everyone looks at the white paper and goes, oh, wow, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And nobody wants to stay with Eden. Everybody sees it as the natural, next progression that they just want to switch. Well, one of the big assets of Eden, obviously, is the treasury. So the way I've seen it, and I think generally we've seen it, we present the white paper, we talk through it in AMAs, and Dan does his social media thing so that we kind of catch everyone up. And if everyone says, yep, this is obviously the next step, then I think we make an opportunity, we create a pathway for the chiefs to say, okay, let's transfer the treasury into some new community. And we retire Eden voluntarily into the next system. That's my guess how that'll in all likelihood work.
It's not a bad scenario, honestly, because what a test of governance, if nothing else. But it can really develop into something quite interesting. Thanks.
Lenny, if you're going to be a troll, you're going to have to be way more negative than that. You don't have your troll skills.
In a negative way. That was not in a negative way.
I know, but
I'm here for governance. You see, I'm one of a few, maybe.
I'm just saying you don't make a great troll, Lenny. That's all I'm saying.
No, I try to be quiet just so I don't sound rude.
So we could have two iterations of Eden. We could, if stickers like to stay with what they've got and others want to move on, we could split.
Yeah, and I think logistically, the other thing that's worth saying is Dan and we are going to be 100% focused on the next iteration. So the other thing to consider is, are you so happy with how Eden is working now that you change nothing about the contract, or some team has to spin up to maintain that contract? There's logistical challenges with sticking with that system.
It's most likely we're going to be moving on. That's yet to be seen, but there's a good chance we'll be much more happy to move on. Question on Clarion itself, the original application, is that, I know it's been parked, but is that going to be pushed back even further now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. There's no sort of ideas around sort of integrating that. I mean, obviously it's something completely different, but peer-to-peer social media. But you never know, could end up going down the same road.
Yeah, I kind of on a half personal note, I keep playing with relevant technology. I have used Signal, the Signal app, for a while. If anyone has heard of Session is a Signal fork that takes the relays out of the picture, so there is no Signal server. It's truly peer-to-peer. There are more and more projects that are getting on this path of independence and peer-to-peer and decentralization, own your own data. Like, there's lots and lots of projects happening faster and faster that are filling part of the vision of Clarion. So I think every month that goes by, there's more technology already built that could be leveraged for that kind of solution anyway.
Yeah. How big is your team now, Mike? Because obviously there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm guessing you're expanding.
That's an active conversation. At this very moment, it's the same size. We have not changed anything yet. We have plans that make that likely to change, but when I say plans, all of this is massively up in the air. So we have had conversations. Some of them are pretty mature. Most of them are not. I think almost all effort is on getting the ideas in the white paper solid and communicated, and then we'll have to kind of pop our heads up and say, okay, now we have the plan. What is it? What do we need to make that happen? Because at this point, it's just you need the idea before you have the roadmap, before you do anything meaningful.
And I guess it's the reaction to the white paper as well. If you're getting a very sort of great response, then there'd be more sort of demand for you to expand quicker, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's options on that spectrum as well, right? Is this something we build with a small community and iterate? I have been an advocate from the beginning of this is a social experiment. We need to run the experiment. As soon as we start thinking, oh, we've got this problem solved. This is a hard problem. How many people are really trying to solve this problem? This is a hard problem and we need to iterate. We did V1. We learned a ton. There's all kinds of stuff in the white paper that will be informed by what we learned. To think that we've got it nailed down in V2 and we've got the perfect solution, I don't know. I wouldn't think that way. So how many more iterations before we have something really, really solid? I don't know. But relating to it, like let's ramp up and build V2 like that's it. That's the final solution, I think is not advisable. I think there's a lot more to learn, as there always is in life. Brandon, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that was very well stated.
Cool. All right, other questions? All right, everybody's quiet today.
With regards to me again, sorry. With regards to me, the original Eden and the allocation of funding, visibility of how it's spent, is that something that can be addressed?
As far as accounting and transparency, we're already fully focused on what comes next. So I would not expect any further features added as far as transparency and accounting for V1. that'd be something the community would have to pick up.
Thank you.
Yep. Everybody's so quiet. You guys must have had a great, relaxing holiday.
Maybe still
Not reading Telegram.
Still digesting the holiday, eating.
I thought turkey was the one. That was the other holiday that made everybody sleepy, but I guess they both do that.
So, Mike, I got a question.
Yep.
What is the status update, if you have any, for actually Clarion? And if that is, if that's still a thing, or what's the status there?
The company?
Well, the product. I mean, there was the distinction a long time ago between Clarion, which was intended, as far as I recall, to be some sort of like a social media, some.
So that's
remember what I'm talking about?
Yep, that's what Mel was asking about. Clarionos as a product is on hold, and I think we're getting to the point where it's going to. I'm almost comfortable saying that's just out of scope now. Like that's just someone else's project at this point.
Okay.
We are still. Dan is very committed to social. So some form of social, right? We've stated before, we're huge fans of Violet Garden. That idea of giving the, I'll refer to Eden members as inclusive of whatever comes next. Giving Eden members means of communication that's reliable and incentivized and all that stuff that Violet Garden is. That remains a big piece of the plan. So that will continue for sure. But Clarionos, decentralized, microchain, peer-to-peer communication, that idea is something for the future. I think we've got so much to do. We'll have so much work out of what the white paper requires that's going to be, if we call it on pause, it'll be on pause for a long time.
If you was to think about like with the ENF, they've got multiple teams working on multiple projects. If you were to grow in the new year, you never know. We could work on various different projects at once, couldn't you?
The community could. You're asking about could those groups that have spun up around the ENF?
No, I'm just saying you could mimic that sort of style of work. Obviously, the ENF have got multiple projects going to be running, or projects being funded from the ENF, but through the reports showing them in these groups, working proposal groups. Working groups, you say. But yeah, I was wondering if obviously your team only small, and you can only work one thing at a time. But if you had multiple teams or grow to a point where you could actually looking at doing multiple things, because that takes a bit of a pain away, because there's loads of things that you can do, but you've got to focus on one thing at a time, and they take time, don't they? So I was just thinking if you had more than one team working on multiple things, it could be beneficial.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm going to call out something that makes that distinct from us, and probably will keep it that way. Each of those teams has experts on them, right? Like there's the API team, and they've got, I won't name names just because I'm sure there are names I would leave out of the list, and I don't want to highlight people and ignore other people. I'm not trying to do that. But the API team has some very notable names that everybody on this call would know, who really, really, really know their stuff. They've worked on history, they've worked on API. So there's enough expertise out there. I would, without much hesitation, just because I haven't looked at each of them, but without much hesitation, I can say each of those working groups has experts on them who know what's needed, who have expertise relevant to what's needed. and who can kind of train other people up in what's needed. Whereas what we're doing at Clarion, there's no expert in this yet other than Dan. And, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I suppose maybe I'm on that path. But this is new stuff. Point is, like, this isn't a chain that's been out for 3+ years. This isn't something that there's a community already around. So I think we could grow the company for sure, but that decentralized multi-group structure is really reliant on multiple loci. Feels like that should be loci. There are points of expertise that those groups are formed around that makes that structure possible. And I don't think there's an equivalent, at least yet, in what we're doing.
I would add, okay, so first of all, you nailed it with loci. I just Googled
Thank
it.
you.
Yes,
yeah, good.
That was
Appreciate you.
I would have said locusts and left it at that. But
those are the bugs, right?
Yeah. Locusts, but almost.
Locusts. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, but no, I think though we all the other side of that is we're already starting to work more in that way as our vision expands. We do have a sub team within our team that's focused on Mandel, or whatever our branding is going to end up being for that, focused on in enhancing and caring for, in a way, that EOS.io software. So and as we move forward with this Eden V2 vision, it's not small. It's a large vision, and there are logical groupings of sub-products within this vision. So I could very much see us parallelizing as a team in a way similar to what you suggested there. Now, would it be a fully decentralized endeavor from our team? I don't know. I think that would be much farther out. But certainly, we'll need to figure out how we parallelize, and we'll want somewhat independent, sub teams working on multiple things at once. Will any of those be Clarion or Clarianos in its original form as a decentralized, distributed, peer-to-peer mesh social network? Probably not, but it doesn't mean that one of those won't be focused on a social on-chain experience. So we'll see.
We could even utilize the Eden communities that are going to spring up.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
I like this little visionary brainstorming session going on.
I convey someone who lost the mic, Chuck McDonald. He's written a question that kind of links in a little bit to what I raised before. But I put his questions, and then you can give a reasonable answer, hopefully. It's a bit of a variation. A question is the Eden 1.0 population, essentially Eden on EOS, ideally going to become its own community within the new game? And he's thinking about the need for a community looking out for EOS. Or will this population be encouraged to break up and form new communities? And I presume that also would be in the new Eden, and similarly. Start with that one first. How would you respond?
Brandon, I've been talking a lot, so unless you'd like me to handle that, I'll give you the mic.
Yeah, no, I'm just reading it as he's going here. I think we already addressed that to a degree. The Eden OS, I'm getting some feedback there. The Eden on EOS community is an independent, self-governing community at this point. I don't know, what the future holds as to which way we might encourage the community to go. but ultimately that's going to be up to the Eden on EOS community. So there's another part of that question. I'm thinking about the need for a community looking out for EOS. Absolutely, that's.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Sorry, I the way I read it, I think his mindset is a little bit like, okay, Venue is coming up, and Eden would just become another DAO inside the new Eden version, and similarly, or potentially, if there is a split somehow, maybe there's half of it remain Eden, another one set up a new Eden in the new Eden, etc., etc. But that's maybe a little bit early to look at those things. So what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, the honest answer is we don't know yet. We don't know. Eden on EOS is an independent community, and it will initially be running in parallel, and it will be up to the community whether they want to fold into this V2 vision or not, or to continue to operate independently. We do have a vision for this V2 to continue to look out for EOS and work on things that make continue to make EOS great, for sure. So whether the two communities are operating in parallel or one folds into the other, there will certainly be many communities out there working on caring for and improving EOS.
Well, and I think given if you haven't seen the diagram that Dan put out on Twitter probably prior to the holiday, 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the economic model and the relationship to EOS, each of these communities is going to be tied to EOS in a very tight economic sense. So each community is going to be benefiting EOS. That's how that has to work. It's how it's all tied together. So there's a lot of ways that can turn out, right? Some people might just want to do their thing, do their community mission on EOS because it's a very powerful place to do so. But I think a lot of these communities are going to be doing something for EOS because they're tied to EOS economically, right? There's a tie between this internal community token and EOS. Well, with that kind of tie, each community has a stake in EOS. They have a stake in things running well and things going a particular direction and performance improvements and all that stuff. Given that relationship, there's certainly going to be an opportunity for all of those communities somehow to have a say in how EOS operates, because the BPs will now be serving all of these communities. They'll actually have, let's call them customers or stakeholders, something like that. Right now, it's really the BPs, a few apps. It's not like there aren't apps. There are apps out there that run and rely on the BPs and rely on the chain running well, and the chain runs well. But when we start creating lots of communities that are producing a lot of value that maybe start needing certain features of the chain, we're going to need some way to organize those voices into the operation of the chain. So I would imagine where we'll end up is some kind of super government, right? It's some kind of multi-community overarching governance that informs the progress of the chain. So I don't think the governance of the chain will be a community inside of the collection of communities. I think it'll be the community, some voice of the communities that will have that say. Does all that make sense?
Do you have any idea what functions of that could be used specifically for the likes of Ethereum? What they really need, what they're desperate to, like, what would be the main things that they require so that we attract them users?
Oh, well, one of the things that you've seen out in the community on Telegram talking about it over years now. There was a bounty a while back about this. Is the EVM, right? What if we could support EVM on chain the way Telos does? That makes any Ethereum contract portable with very minimal effort to EOS blockchain. And I don't mean EOS in that case. I mean EOS.io chains, right? Telos already has this. They already have a functioning EVM on their chain. So making it easy to bring contracts from Ethereum, I think, is a huge piece of that. There are a whole lot of other opportunities, but I think that's the really big one. And then the other one that's also really big, but maybe not as logically obvious, is simply having a killer app. Right now, what's going to motivate people to learn the wallets that will communicate with EOS? And what is this account thing and how do I use it? Doesn't it work like Ethereum? Right? Like just the difference, the educational difference, you need some incentive to figure all that out. And I think a killer app on EOS is obviously a great way to get that done. Does that fully answer that question?
I was just thinking of, obviously, the Eden 2, what is going to attract other chains to actually use it. I know the killer app is not one side of it, but yeah, I was talking as like having governance as a service, that type of thing. But yeah, what sort of the low hanging fruit, which trying to make EOS grow quickly as possible. And I just sort of just running it past you if you had any other ideas.
Yeah, I think when you look at this system as, think of the generalized case. I'm gonna hand wave a little bit. By the way, if you guys don't know, I think this was Lovejoy's idea. The drinking game around me is when I say the term hand wave, you take a shot. So I'm going to hand wave a little bit, but I think the generalized system we're looking to build is incentivizing productivity, right? Incentivizing public good productivity, right? Improve your town or improve your neighborhood and be paid to do so. That kind of thing, right? I'm kind of saying it the reverse as Eden. Eden is the reverse of, here's some funding, let's choose the people we trust to do good. But again, now back to the way I said it, watch what they do, evaluate whether we're happy with what they're doing, and then keep giving them money if we are. That's kind of the general approach there. Well, when any community can do that at will, here's the mission, here's some money, and here's a group of people who care about this mission. Well, a lot of people are going to want to do that. I think that's an engine that's itself going to attract tons and tons of interest, tons of participation.
Especially out in third world countries, maybe like Venezuela, them type of countries where they are struggling and they could survive on a lot smaller funds and make big differences. Yeah, I like that answer.
I this is again a more personal answer than general, but when I lived in Chile, I would look at neighborhoods where in the city I lived, the municipal government was very, very, very small. There was one, but it was very, very small scoped. So neighborhoods had broken sidewalks and dirt that hadn't been landscaped, and like all this stuff where people in that community would probably come out on a weekend, meet each other, and work to make it pretty. There's just not a good means of coordination. You'd have to go door to door and form a group and have meetings, and you'd have to like make all that happen. And that happens, right? We know that happens all over the world. But if you could form a neighborhood DAO and you could all put money in the pot and say, hey, I don't know how to pick out flowers and it's not my thing, but if somebody'd like to do that, or hey, does anybody have a cement mixer and could fix this sidewalk? Empowering groups of people all over the world to govern themselves. It's kind of like the banking industry. Andreas Antonopoulos talks so much about the value proposition of blockchain makes a lot more sense. The value proposition of cryptocurrency makes a lot more sense to the unbanked world, the majority unbanked world out there. This is the same thing in governance. People who don't have any means of coordination and don't even have a government doing it for them, well, they have no means, provided or not provided. So to them, I think the opportunity is going to be more obvious of like, oh, wow, this is a really easy way to coordinate. For those of us who live in suburbia, where the roads are just fixed every once in a while, and the sidewalks are just replaced every once in a while, and landscaping's done by our apartment complex or our town or whatever, we don't see that need as much. We just have our money taken and stuff happens. But in a place where that doesn't exist, yeah, I think this enables all kinds of that's the neighborhood example, but you've got an economic example. Venezuela and the supply chains. I talked quite a bit with D-Quartz about that. Man, it's awesome. It's just awesome what they're doing with this stuff. And I think we're going to empower. This is just going to be a tool to empower that kind of activity.
We've got a follow-up question in the chat from Chuck McDonald. He says, how can the current community assist in the implementation of 2.0? Should we be evangelizing? Should we be thinking about social tools that will be required for transparency, etc.? A YouTube media push? Will there be marketing tools and budget to set the stage? And my answer to that would be, number one, we've got to know what to be supporting, what to be evangelizing first. So hang tight for the white paper. And then when the white paper comes out, we're going to need feedback from the community. We're going to need people diving in, reading it in depth, thinking through, all of the edge cases, the incentive system in there, if there are any holes in that. Chuck said, trying to hang tight, all in caps. But I understand the desire to want to do something. But yeah, when it comes out, we're going to want feedback. We're going to want people's eyes on the white paper to make sure that what we're setting out to build is the right thing, right, to set out to build in the first place. At that point, if you like it, if you believe in the vision, by all means, go out and evangelize. By all means, get on YouTube and record video, start raising awareness about it. Heck, if this 2.0 is going to be, if we have a conviction that it's going to be the killer app for EOS and it's going to bring people into EOS, then maybe in the upcoming April elections, you run on a platform to support in some way the vision behind 2.0. But what can you do right now? Keep on following Dan's messages in Telegram, on Twitter, and dive into that white paper when it comes out.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of second that and add a branch to that answer. While you're hanging tight, and Chuck, obviously you have done this a lot already, but I'm going to invite the rest of the community to do similar things. Study the ideas, right? Take a second pass at the book and understand, why are we doing any of this, right? What's not just the motivation, but like what are the solutions we're looking to implement? Why do we think we can do this better than it's been done in the past? That's what the book is about. If you don't really understand the Pareto principle and how it impacts governance, how it impacts wealth, go back and review that. V1 came from writing the book and then implementing something. V2 came from looking at V1, rereading the book and going, you know what? I think we could do this better. We could do this more consistent with the principles. And I think that's something easy to kind of forget. Like, well, we wrote the book and then we did Eden and now we've got this new white paper and like we're going to get somewhere. We only get somewhere when we've implemented those principles. And we didn't implement them to our satisfaction, right, sufficiently in V1, which is why the white paper is on its way. So I highly recommend to everybody, no matter how much you've read the book, read it again, read it, delve into those things. Man, some of the feedback on the white paper so far has been me going and saying, you know, I read the 80-20 principle book like 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 years ago. Let me go reread that book. So I listened to it again. Dunbar's number, you know, I kept hearing that from Dan, and I've read a bunch about it leisurely, but where does this come from, and what is it exactly? What are the boundaries on it? Game theory, right? Dan has studied game theory so much, he'll throw out the different names of the games, different types of games. There's all this detail that the more of that stuff I think we're grounded in, and we can see that stuff either in practice effectively or not in practice effectively. When we see it's not in practice effectively, now we know what's next. But we've got to be really grounded in those ideas. The other thing very related to that is we're gonna be interested in feedback on a white paper for sure. But this is a big but. Writing a white paper and giving feedback on a white paper and thinking, oh, wow, this is a great white paper. It's a paper. None of us know what that's going to look like. Dan wrote a whole book, and we wrote Eden V1. And it wasn't until we wrote Eden V1 and saw how it operated, we're like, oh, you know what? We're not fulfilling the mission, at least not 100%. We took a great step, but there's more to do. And I think that realization of like, yeah, the white paper is great, but it's just an idea. It's an untested idea. It's a very well-informed idea based on actual experience with V1. So this is not to diminish it at all, but this is the nature of experimentation and iteration. Let's come up with the next experiment and run it. We're going to learn something being out there doing what we're doing. So let's get the white paper out. Let's implement it. Use the system. What can you do? Study the stuff now. When the system comes out, use it. That's plenty of contribution. There'll be a time to hype it, I guess. I'm not a hype guy. Thank God we have Jesse and the bees here to market, because I have no idea about marketing. But I think there'll be a time for that. But just using the system is going to actually be a bigger contribution than I think anyone realizes. All right, off the soapbox. How was that, Chuck?
I'm not sure if Chuck's mic is working from what Lenny said before, but maybe I'll speak in Chuck's place if he can't and say that sounds great. Thank you for this whole AMA, by the way. It's been really awesome hearing all of this and really exciting. And also, Mike, I would say, based on what you've been saying here and also what you said before, I think you're maybe underestimating yourself as being able to hype up. You're talking about being, I don't know, all sorts of cool stuff. Mel mentioned something. I wrote a note before. You've been sharing some really exciting stuff. So, yeah, thank you.
I very much appreciate that, and I'm happy to hand that off to someone like you who knows what the hell they're doing, because whatever comes after this conversation is completely your expertise I have no idea about. So I very much appreciate that and very much appreciate your role in the whole thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that Dogman talking?
Yes, it was.
Who was just... Oh, sorry, Jesse. I thought that was okay. I thought that was you. I wasn't looking at my screen, and your voice sounds close enough to Jesse's. I didn't notice the difference. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I was a little bit confused, but it makes sense now that you're thinking about Jesse. But yeah.
All right. Well, we're well over time. Any last questions that are burning? Or hey, Lovejoy's on. Howdy, Lovejoy. Zach joined us. Eric. Any final questions?
Hey guys, I'll have to start back over from the beginning and listen to the intro. I missed the first half.
Yeah, we always kind of come across these things to say at the end. And I'll have to start saying them at the beginning, but the live stream time will be more consistent now that the holidays are done and now that we have this AMA format as a default. If we don't have some presentation live stream version, we'll generally be doing an AMA like this. So this time you can mark it in your calendars for 10:15 East Coast Tuesday mornings. There will be something going on either in this channel or on the YouTube live stream. All right. Well, I think we'll call it there. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Mike and Brandon.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks so much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you later.